Season 1, Episode 10. One Way Out. I hope someday I can make something as good as this. I content myself with the fact that I've made things very good regardless. You just watch the FF2 rewrite. Please do. It's really good. They zip up the corpse and just ship him off. Do you notice the security guard? As he's walking out, the security guard is nervous as hell. Look around. Look around. Just double checking. Okay, okay. Constantly shifting, checking people's things. Weapon in hand, completely at the ready. There's this wonderful tidbit where, yeah, I noticed the stretcher was a droid. Oh, the guards can tell. They know. They know. There's this wonderful bit where Cassian is confronting Kino. And there's a lot of symmetry to how this show is written. Because the scene starts off with Kino insisting they get in position and on program. And it ends with Cassian demanding Kino get in position and on program. They killed 100 men to keep them quiet. What would you call that? Power. Power doesn't panic. And that's an interesting statement, isn't it? Of all the individuals of power and prominence throughout this franchise, the ones at the absolute top tend to follow into that mentality, don't they? Name one moment where Palpatine ever panicked, for example. Food for thought. And so, there's I am unashamed to admit I cried during this episode. Completely unashamed. I disagree with that body punk, but I don't want to get down that particular rabbit hole again. I'd rather die trying to take them down than die giving them what they want. This is, as absolutely pathetic as this sounds, one of the biggest reasons why being tough on crime doesn't actually work. This is a proven fact, by the way, historically, as well as the fact that we've done plenty of studies on this in the modern era. Because when you're tough on crime, what you've done is you've given your victim, your target, you've given them a choice. They can have a little bit of creature comfort as they go down, or they can go down under their own terms. I know that sounds pathetic. We actually just talked about this in Clone Wars Season 7. You remember that? We talked about one of the reasons why it's important to take people alive, even when they're scum like Trench. You want people to turn themselves over. You want them to think, okay, turn myself in, walk away from it. Because if you give them no choice, if you shove that boot further into their neck, what do you think they're going to do? Yeah, exactly, Valerian. It's such a pathetic thing. And so Kino's face, Andy Serkis nails this so hard. Of course he does. His body language is fantastic. Of course it is. The man lives and breathes body language in terms of acting. And the difference in the posture and the faces. Kino's expression is total despair. There is this gap. And for just a little bit, just for the sequence of here, we actually leave Cassian's perspective thematically and go into Kino's. No one is getting out. And you notice the build up to this scene. Everyone's yelling, arguing. Some people agree, some people don't. Maybe it's a rumor. I don't know. Trying to think. And there's just, yeah, la, 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 la. It actually reminds me a lot of the Senate floor earlier. But interestingly, unlike the Senate floor, there is someone here who commands actual respect. The moment Kino says that, because they know Kino, they respect him, they trust him, they should. They listen to him. This is why you leave that light at the end of the tunnel. This is why you make sure that there's that little drip of water keeping you hydrated, keeping you going. Because when you take that away, people get dangerous. We skip over to someone who I now know whose name is Lonnie. We should do what we normally do. Let's assume Krieger's watching. Yeah, that actually makes a weirdly large amount of sense. Radagast agrees, of course. And they're kind of closing the net a little bit on Krieger and his particular operation. And it's doubly funny because it's still so pathetically minor, right? Like, Krieger's doing some random raid on some random thing. We don't even know the details. We don't need to. They're there. Let me tell you something. Oh, it did too. Completely shocked me, Uthor. I'll give them that. I'll talk about this in a second. Let me tell you something my sister and I talked about just last night. I did a little test, just for fun. I did a little bit of a test because I wanted to go ahead and gauge the opinion of people who've never seen Andor, what they think of the premise of Andor. Like, hey, there's this Star Wars show. Here's what it is, ... What do you think? Now, my niece, I'm so proud of her, said, that sounds really interesting. I want to watch that show. And I specifically mentioned there's no Jedi, no lightsabers, no Force. I specifically said that. Yeah, if you remember, my mother said, well, that sounds dumb and boring. My niece said, that sounds interesting. Might be a few more years before we allow her to watch this show, because this show's kind of heavy. But at the same time, maybe she is okay. Maybe she is up to that. I don't know. That's going to be a discussion with her parents. It's not for me to decide. But my sister really impressed me, because you know what she said? If you remove the lightsabers and the Force and the Jedi and the big war, then it's not Star Wars. Hang on. But as with so many things with my sister, that turned into a discussion. Because what she meant is that you can't remove those things, period. Those things have to be there. Star Wars has to be there in the background, right? There's still Jedi in Andor. There's still Force in Andor. There's still the war in Andor. Palpatine's right over there. We don't see him, but he's there. His presence is felt constantly in so many of these episodes. That's the important part. That's the important part. It's still Star Wars. Yeah, Luke's out there somewhere. He's pretty young at this point. It's still Star Wars. Because even though we have all of the big branding stuff, it's been pushed out of focus. And that's fine. In fact, that's especially a good thing, if I might be so bold. Yeah, I was actually just thinking about this too. All you have to do is picture Luke in his prime, or Obi-Wan, circa end of the Clone Wars, or Anakin, circa end of the Clone Wars, just walking into this prison, rescuing all these people. Picture that scene in your head. I bet you can. I bet right now, with how much Star Wars media you've consumed in your life, if you're sitting here watching this, you've probably seen at least a little bit of it. You could probably picture it, right? 3 guards rush out, and they're gone. Couple of quick deflector bolts, shoots right back at him, goes right down. Yeah, they're not even breaking a sweat. They would have just ran through this entire prison facility. It's important to keep this perspective. Really quick, thank you, Nemesis, for the sub. As always. No, these people are just the Rent-A-Cops again. Blade Travel hit the nail on the head. Just last episode. These are just the Rent-A-Cops again. Different uniform, different pay, different position. Same role. And that's interesting because one of the things I've noticed more and more as I'm going through this is that everybody is a part of the machine, right? Mon Mothma, for all her wealth and power and prestige, she's not further up in the machine because there is no such thing. She is just as trapped as everybody else. She's just serving a different purpose. She's over here, this gear, pushing this piston in this direction, right? But those Rent-A-Cops are a very specific gear over here. Chkunk. And these guards in this prison are in the exact same slot. Or, slot's the wrong word. They're in the exact same purpose, doing the exact same thing to a different part of the machine. Just a little self-sealing stem bolt over there. Chkunk. That's it. Everyone's doing their point and purpose. Funny thing, I'm not even sure I can swim anymore. I haven't tried since the accident. Jedi Survivor, DBZ Kakarot, and RPG block. Thank you again, Nemesis. Yeah, please keep in mind, the rebellion in Lothal is happening now. We've actually got a time frame. They actually specifically mentioned it's been about a year, all told, and it's been a couple of months since the incident at Aldhani. So Rebels is either at the end of its season 1 or beginning season 2. Lothal has started moving at this point. Kino's speech here is so good. He just so effortlessly and casually takes charge. I wish I'd written it down word for word. He is so done with all of this. And as they're saying, any shift not in full compliance will be punished collectively. As of this moment, I am dead. You'll notice several other prisoners repeat that same refrain. Yeah, this is why we don't have Tarkin here. Tarkin, that would be a different thing. No force powers? Doesn't matter. Tarkin is a big fish. We've talked about that before. In fact, he's probably one of the biggest non-force using fishes in the sea of the Galactic Empire. And I mean that. Tarkin is very high tier. Not just in what he has authority over, but in his competency, in his intelligence, in his charisma, in his backing. Yeah, he's right up there with Thrawn and a few other individuals like Ars Vandor or Kruya Vendron. Like, these people are way up there. Yeah, Tarkin would have looked at this and be like, why are you bothering me with this? Yeah, Ray Sloan, that's another good one. I like Rebels, the show, a lot, but I think they should have done more of this. Started way further down tier. I'm completely okay. No, I saw it, Rex. I am completely okay with Rebels scaling up over time, right, to the eventual location. I'm going to not spoil Rebels, but the eventual place it ended up in season 4, right? I think it was season 4. I'm okay with the escalation, but I think Rebels should have started lower. I'm just going to spoil this. They showed a Star Destroyer in season 1. And in fact, they showed more than one, and that was a mistake. I know it's iconic. I don't care. That's sort of the point. We've just talked about this. They should have pushed it out. They should have pushed it back. I'm getting off topic. So, quick cut to Ferrix. 2 people are watching, and Marva stopped taking her medicine, and she knows. She knows what she's doing, and she knows why she's doing it. I find myself wondering. Everyone's watching her in her house because it's the best lead they have on Cassian. I wonder if she knows that too. It really does make me wonder. So then Davos shows up. You know what I hate most about this show? How much time and effort is put into making the villains interesting and engaging characters. This man is honestly what Shizor probably should have been. I'm just going to say that. Shizor, by total quit, I just haven't put it back away. I still have Shadows of the Empire right here, right? Shizor is like almost comically evil and horribly sexist on top of everything. It just adds this gross factor to him. But Shizor also just comes across as entirely too stuck up his own ass, right? Davo, by contrast, comes across as someone who, if I was to use one word to describe him, I would use the word competent. Yeah, I was actually going to comment on his outfit. Did you notice the immediate contrast? I love the visual presentation here. I love the fact that over on the left we have Tay, who's actually dressed fairly conservatively, but definitely wealthy. And then we have Mon Mothma in the middle, who actually probably has the nicest outfit here. There's a saying, I forget what it is, but it's how you can know the very rich by the fact that they don't give a crap about what they wear. Which brings me to Davo, who's just driving in, he's running around in an outfit that you know was picked out for him, right? It's hard to even describe. I'm doing such a bad presentation of this, but you can just tell by looking at him. Ah, okay. He is also much smarter. Oh, absolutely, Bionic. Um, he is much smarter than he portrays immediately. But there's this show keeps doing something. This show keeps doing something. It keeps doing this one little line in the background that just develops so much. Oh, the room is state property. The rules are strict on decor. Oh my God. And you know it was that way back in the days of the Republic. Don't pretend it wasn't. We know that back in the waning days of the Republic that these kind of offices, the homes of the senators and the representatives, were mandated to look a certain way and be a certain way. Yeah. That says so much about how the Senate has operated for so long. It's probably worse now under the Galactic Empire. Like, I could believe that. I could believe that Palpatine actually has like a worse version of an HOA or whatever, or has escalated. Excuse me, made the version worse. But you get the point. Anyways, so get back to Davo. Clearly a thug, by the way. Everything about him screams crime lord. It's just, it's too late for what, Uthor? Um, the senator has many obligations, and she's managed to manage her time clearly. Translation: don't waste her time. That's actually funny because she's very direct, and he's not. There's even this wonderful bit where he's still trying at conversation, and so he says, "Oh yeah, I've met your husband several times." To which Shira says, "I'm sure." That might be the worst burn she's said to him this entire show. And she's been burning him a lot. Davo picks up on it immediately, recognizes that that's somewhere he's not going to go down, and then pretty much backs off like, okay. So then we cut over to him finally cutting a little bit more to the heart of the matter. He says, Tay actually says, we've been over all this. Tay, the friend, trying to help his friend not have to deal with this scumbag. But Davos says, no, I want to hear her say it. Let me tell you something interesting about power, real power. Because real power, yeah, he susses her out so quickly, it's hysterical. Real power isn't something that can be bought. It's not possible. Real power is when you can get away with something or make something happen that you want to happen because you want it to happen. Now, that can be minuscule or it can be gargantuan. It doesn't really matter. But that's how real power tends to operate, even in Star Wars. He wants to hear her say it. That's it. Yeah, exactly, Rex. Yeah, Tark unleashes Vader, for God's sakes. Think about that for a moment. So, there's this wonderful bit where she says she is exploring alternative financial avenues to their foundation, and I love this shot. Probably volume out in the background there, behind the set, behind the windows. That's how I would use it. I've actually talked about that before. If I was in charge of using volume, the only way I'd use it was when I was doing indoor shots. Outdoor shots are just too problematic. Have you seen that set? I don't want to go too far down the tech geek tree. It's a fascinating thing. Moving on. So we have this wonderful shot of her right in the middle, Tay over there, Davo over there. And he responds, and he says this so wonderful: we have reached a scale in our holdings that permits a great variety of transactions to be bundled in ways that makes outside observation impossible. That's a real thing, by the way. It's not even like technical, but like you assume he's doing double speak. No, he's saying something straight. That is him saying this as bluntly as possible. What they have done is they have enough holdings, as in they own enough lines and enough credit on enough things. Yeah, nice, gigantic laundromat, let's call it what it is, that allow for a huge, different amount of types, different types of transactions to be bundled in a way that makes outside observation impossible. No one's going to see this. I bet you money this guy deals with the Hutts. Putting it down right now. I don't know if we'll ever learn. I don't even care. You can't tell me this guy doesn't deal with the Hutts. And he can do what she needs so desperately. A running theme, especially in the EU, was just how much the rebellion got in bed with crime, with criminal organizations, because, well, their interests aligned so frequently. It's just like kind of by coincidence, you know? It's like, yeah, sure, we'll back you. Why? Well, yeah. Um, so, and then there's this wonderful bit. Oh my God. Hang on, I need to refine myself where I'm at my notes. Here we go. There we go. Sorry. Uh, so then he talks about it, and it's what's really fantastic here is yeah, the rebellion was willing to get in bed with Black Sun. They didn't even want to because Black Sun was considered like Hutt's but worse. Still did it. Um, he mentions that new financial regulations made without Senate approval have made things worse. In other words, he knows that he can do what she needs to have happen. He knows that she's doing it for enough of a reason that she is sufficiently desperate to make this happen. And he knows that this is the kind of thing that she's not particularly in favor of. He has all the power in this conversation, fascinatingly enough. She decides to try and start cutting to the heart of the matter. What's your fee? Yeah, they've made a game of it, and we play. What's your fee? Yeah, he doesn't need money. He even says it. He is actually quite honest in this entire conversation. He does take a little bit too long to get to the point. In fact, I counted. There's a section he talks about, I'd like a return invitation. There's a section where it takes him 4 separate sentences to get to beginning to suggest what it is. And it is at the sentence 4 that Mon Mothma finally deduces what he's getting at. This man is trying very hard to talk his way around the circumstance. But she cuts to the heart of the matter immediately. Oh no. And it's the first time she loses her facade, her mask. She's been smiling and nice in the senator, but the moment he brings that up, you can't be serious. And to Mon Mothma, who is openly non-traditionalist, she even admits to him she's non-traditionalist. Fascinating little tidbit. Mothma and Devo are both very honest to each other for almost this entire circumstance. They may talk around some of the specifics, but that's deception, not lying. And that's a distinction that's important for these kind of things. I love this kind of political drama, by the way. So, yeah, her reaction is insane. God, I love this actress so much. And she immediately deduces it and tries to cut through things. And his reaction is, our position sometimes makes decisions for us. He knows exactly what kind of position she has here. And she tries to shut it down. And he says, okay. He doesn't make a scene. He doesn't need to. He's not panicking because he has power. So he goes and says, okay. Gets up. Goes. Starts putting on his coat. Think about it. And her response, I'm not thinking about it. And he looks at her odd for a second. He's so observant. That's a good trend of observation in this entire show. That's the first untrue thing you've said. And it cuts back to her, and she is physically shaking. She is vibrating with what she is realizing as she is starting to process what has just been laid at her feet and the cost of operations. The very thing that she was probably most terrified of this entire time, and why she was so hesitant to deal with this guy to begin with. So she's going to sell her daughter for the rebellion. Oh, yeah, no. I love how she immediately says, you catch that, how she immediately is the one who says, you want a betrothal? And his reaction is, no, I just want an introduction. He's 14, she's 13, they're of age, you know. I like Devo. I hope he dies because he's so horrible. God damn it. If they like each other, that's a bonus. It's a bonus. It's nice to see this quality of crime lord. I know that sounds strange. We've been covering fiction for the better part of well, like 80 billion years, something like that. We've seen all kinds of crime lords over the years, right? I'll use the Batman mythos to pull some here. We've got the rough thug, like the Penguin and some things. We've got the distinguished gentleman who's above it all. Yeah, I like him. Base Delta Zero. I repeat, base Delta Zero. Yeah, he's vacationing on Alderaan about 4.5 years from now. Yeah, Star Wars itself has run the gamut of crime lords, and this guy, I like this guy. I like this guy a lot. He is the kind of crime lord we don't see very often. He doesn't need to demonstrate anything. So, we have a brief shot, which I admittedly didn't call. He's not Underworld. Luthen is talking with Clea, excuse me. Bit of a dyslexia there. Clea. Luthen's talking about Clea. And, he's discussing the whole situation, and they've got a signal, and they've got a thing, and they want to be in person. Fine. What if it's a trap? If it's a trap, then we've already lost. And Luthen's right, of course. What I find most interesting about this thing is I completely missed who they were going to meet. I'll go ahead and give it away. I thought they were going to go talk to Saw. I thought Saw had decided to change his mind. Yeah, you remember Dryden Voss? Dryden was a psychopath. No, he was. He was that kind of... He was almost Joker-like in his presentation. Everything's fine. Stab! And then Jabba, he's opulent. He likes to go ahead and do nice, big, sweeping gestures. He wants everyone to know he's at the top of the heap. Now, I'm not complaining about that. That actually makes sense for a Hutt. Remember, the Hutts are all about posturing. Why do you think they get so fat? I don't even know if that's true anymore in the AU, but back in the EU, only the Hutts who had it made were allowed to get fat. And I should probably mention that the Hutts are functionally snakes. I know this is a weird, tiny little detail to bring up, but what I mean by that is they have to work at it to get that fat. It takes effort to get that fat. They are solid freaking muscle. I've said before that the Hutts are naturally apex predators, and I mean that. Yeah, normal Hutts, this is one of the things that pissed me off about a lot of Star Wars, is they tend to forget that most Hutts are lithe, agile snakes, which are terrifying and dangerous. And then every time there's a Hutt, it's like, oh, God, boosh, God. And it's like, no, those should be the exceptions. Sorry, getting off topic. Yeah, have we ever visually seen... I mean, in the comics, I know they go into this. But, like, on shows and movies, we don't really show any Hutts that aren't... Blah, blah, blah. I'm getting off topic. So, we cut back to the prison. Everyone's shaking. There's so much energy in the air. I'm dead. I'm dead. I'm pretending to be dead. Don't die until you put up a fight. One way out. The energy here is crazy. Did you catch that the new meat who comes in, the new guy, the guy who's being brought in place, he's terrified. He's shaking. In fact, he is specifically shell-shocked. Do you know that in real life, United States court districts, they actually have something they specifically call shock time? They usually reference anywhere from 1 to 30 days of what they call shock time. The whole point of that is to scare you, to give you a glimpse of how bad jails can be so you'll never commit a crime again. They call that shock time. So the new guy's gets pushed forward, gets onto the thing. We're already behind. Yeah. There's a simple whistle, the guards glancing through the thing. Cassian gets the water on the floor. And at that moment, I realize what he's been doing. I suddenly process what he's been doing. So, he's sopping wet, of course. Comes out. back into program. Couple of nods, couple of glances. Yeah, he's shorting out the floor. He's shorting out the floor. It took me until the water started coming through the pipe, and at the moment I saw the water leaking through, I was like, that's it. That's what he's after. That's what he's been trying to do this whole time. Because he identified very early, as I'm sure most of you did as well, that the main thing the guards have going for them is the damn floor. Yeah. So, there's a distraction. Two guys getting eyes over there. He jams the lift. Did you notice the guy who was brought in immediately grabs the shock staff and goes after the first guard? He actually dies in the process of this, but still does that very, very quickly. Exactly, Cashel. That's a common rule of fiction. If you tell the audience the plan, it means something goes wrong. If you don't tell them, it means we get to see it unfold. Yeah, exactly, Image. Water everywhere. So, yeah, F for the new guy. Went out swinging. Quite a few people die in this, actually. Including a few names we recognize. A lot of people climbed. 2 guys with guns, 1 guy without. 3 guards. 4 total, counting the guy who went down almost immediately, the guy who was down on the lift. So 2 guys with guns and the high ground. But when they finally try to clip on the floor, doesn't work. Successfully shorted it out. And Kino, Andy Serkis pours rage into his face. And as the guards are certainly having some degree of control over the situation, all it takes is one person getting up top to completely invalidate their advantage. Cassian gets up top, quickly pulls down 1 guard, shoots the other one, reshoots the first one, shoots the third one, done. That's it. And yeah, I noticed that Kino was standing out there. He did not get up on the table like he told everyone else to. He stood his ground. He was ready to die. He didn't die. So now hell's coming. Cheers. Nothing but cheers. Each prisoner who takes down a guard makes another weapon for another prisoner. One way out. Come and fight. Ah. Yeah, I love that the scary voice was just some dude. Just some office worker. This whole section, I cannot possibly summarize this. This whole section has so much energy and so much power. This is no longer hope, a common theme in Star Wars in general, actually. This is now hope fulfilled. This is now past the point of hope. Instead, we are now at the point where they have successfully done it. And these people are charging through the doors, charging down the hallways. This is when we see the guy behind this. I love it. I love this ineffectual paper pusher in a fancy uniform who's just sitting there giving these freaking orders. He's about to kill about 300 people, by my quick and easy calculations. I didn't comment on this earlier. They demand that they shut off the hydro generators, which makes sense. They want to shut off the electric floors. Yeah, that could mean so many things. Let me make this clear. But, oh no, I actually noticed that, Bionic. I noticed. I'm sure that's on purpose. You notice that all the guards here have the dark black instead of your traditional military gray, too. I feel silly commenting on any of this because it's just poetry in motion. But something I didn't mention about the hydro generators as we saw them on approach, because they're pulling in water for the sake of the ship, for the sake of the prison facility, but also to keep all things powered, that also immediately kind of adds another little layer of defenses to prevent anyone from escaping. Because anyone who goes to swim will have to deal with a rather strong undertow pulling them back. And then into the grinder. Just a tiny little detail. They don't even have to say that. It's not even necessary. Just another aspect of how messed up this whole place was. Yeah, blenders at every vertex, exactly. What's really fascinating, though, is anybody with any experience in security ever will immediately look at this place and say, oh, this place has a single point of failure. The hydro generators. You take those out and the whole place shuts down. All deterrents for escape are gone. All abilities in order to shut down prisoners are gone, other than a gun that you have on your own hand. Every door can be forced through. This is nothing. This is the end of it. One point of failure. Oh, I noticed that, Rex. Cassian just, oof. His observation skills are crazy. I don't know how much he's cranked that skill, but damn. So then he says, all you, Kino. Cassian continues to be a good leader. Tell them what to do. It has to be you. You do this every day. I bothered to pull up his whole speech here, if you'll forgive me. How long we hang on, how far we get, and how many of us make it out, all of that is now up to us. Pause. Our lives are in our own hands. Our fate is now our own, is what he's actually saying there. Unpause. We have deactivated every floor in the facility. All floors are cold. Wherever you are right now, get up. Stop the work. Get out of your cells. Take charge. Start climbing. They don't have enough guards, and they know it. And if we wait until they figure it out, it'll be too late. Pause. There's that theme again. That wonderful, wonderful theme of oppression. That the people first up don't really know. They know that they can't really hold on. If things really push, if full tilt rebellion happens, they can't really push back against that. That's true across the whole galaxy. They just don't have the numbers. Yeah, there are more ants than grasshoppers. Pause. We will never have a better chance than this, and I would rather die trying to take them down than giving them what they want. We know they fried 100 men at level 2. We know they're making up our sentences as we go. We know that no one outside here knows what's happening, and now we know that when they say we are being released, we are transferred to some other prison to go die, and that ends today. Pause. This is what I mean by that tiny light at the end of the end of the corridor. Even knowing all that, and he's right. He knew it too. He held on because he had that light. Everyone knew they killed all those people. Everyone knew that they're making up the sentences as they go, that they're screwing with the numbers. Everyone knew that nobody outside knows what's happening. There's no help coming. But several people, including Kino, held on because eventually they'd be released. Eventually they could go home. Is it no wonder that Kino had such an investment in Olaf? Unpause. There is one way out. Right now, the building is ours. You need to run, climb, kill. You need to help each other. You see someone who's confused, someone who's lost, you get them moving. You keep them moving until we put this place behind us. There are 5,000 of us. If we can fight half as hard as we've been working, we will be home in no time. One way out. Yes, hey Cyril, that's how you do a speech, dumbass. I love the bit. I love the bit where we actually see the map, which they've been watching in order to monitor who's where. And we actually see that there's just this slowly increasing swarm of yellow dots going towards the middle. It's a nice moment. It's a nice moment. Big uplifting music. Whatever happens now, we made it. And people don't even hesitate to jump. Do you notice that? One guy goes over almost immediately by accident. Someone sees him and then immediately says, one way out, and dives. And that's all it takes. That's the bridge broken. No hesitation. Yeah, you can die from that high of a jump. I know fiction likes to pretend otherwise, but water is not fun to jump into, especially from a certain height. But he can't swim. And before Cassian could do anything, before he could start to process, and you could see he's going to, he gets bowled over by the crowd and taken over. I don't know if we'll ever see Kino again. Don't tell me. As absolutely pathetic as it sounds, I hope he did. Even as a writer, I would hesitate to write something about Kino actually getting out, but I still hope he did. I would write something ridiculous, but plausible. there was a nearby rebel cell that happened to notice the noise. Just some random group. Doesn't actually matter who it is. You know, the new essentialists, maybe? I don't know. It doesn't matter. They came over. They see the prison break. They get more people out. They get some recruits for their particular cause. People can go start and join the rebellion if they want to. That's what I would write. Doesn't have to be on camera. Doesn't have to be in focus. Just put that in the background there. Maybe make Kino's name on a list of recruits for the such and such. That's all I'd do. Because the far more realistic probability is that Kino stayed to make sure everyone got out and then killed himself. Anyways. So then we cut to Lonnie. And this is when it actually shocked me a little bit. See, I actually called very early on. I actually don't even remember if I said this out loud on camera. I called very early on that there was an ISB informant. I thought it was Blevin. I actually thought Blevin was the one who was the mole. He came across as such a stereotypical, snobby, don't talk to me, corrupt imperial bureaucrat that I figured that that's the direction they would go with. And he was kind of the obvious choice, which is why I'm happy it wasn't him. You'll notice we haven't seen Blevin in a while, actually. No, it's Lonnie. Yeah, no, Lonnie is just completely out of nowhere. if you, for a moment, you think he wouldn't have done that, I failed at my job. I like that, Uthor. Either way, Hux. We don't talk about Hux as a mole. Although I do have a speech about episode 9 and 8 and 7 to give tomorrow. Building up to that. So he's doing his own thing. We see Luthen is more than willing to play evil overlord here. And he talks about how he's going to let Keegers attack, go forward, and fail. And actually, go to hell and die. There are 50 men. You're worth more than that. And we see here just how much Luthen and Saw really do have a lot of similarities to each other. This is also when we first really get the name drop. I don't actually know if they've mentioned Dedra as her name before, but this is absolutely the first time when it is name dropped, when attention is put into the person's name, Dedra Miro. And Lonnie's there trying to freak out about all of this. I'm giving you Miro. I'm warning you about Ferrix. I warned you about Spellhaus. I've been doing this for 6 years alone. Luthen comes across as a little bit too Sith, but as usual, the thing. Oh no, he. I like how Rax got the. He looks like a Sith Lord. He does. He's got the cloak. He's got the lack of guardrails. He shows in no way that he is afraid. He is not panicking because he is in power. Luthen is just completely ice cold here, and he tells him flat out, "No, I'm not letting you go. There's no pleasure in saying it, but you're not going anywhere." And he is distressingly and disturbingly honest about this. And then Lonnie asks, "What do you sacrifice?" And as it happens, I did write down his speech. Let me go through this, because Lonnie says, "My sacrifice means nothing to you, does it?" If I may, really quick, anybody who actually has children or is taking care of children full time, you know what Lonnie means, don't you? Did you notice that's just a little line slid into there? He talks about how his perspective is different now that he has a child. And that's true. It's such a weird thing, and everybody who's ever had children knows exactly what that feels like. And everybody who doesn't just looks at you like, huh? Yeah, having a child just changes everything. It's weird. It's not even like, some people might say you see the world clearly, but no, of course you don't. That window is still just as foggy as ever, but your perspective has changed. And now you're seeing at things from a different angle. Yeah, everything's just a little bit different. All the core formulas have changed. One little decimal place moved to the right. So Lonnie desperately wants out. And Luthen says, and once again, very honest, "I said I think of you constantly, and I do. Your investment in the rebellion is epic. A double life, every day a performance, the stress of that. We need heroes, Lonnie, and here you are." 2 times in this speech, if I might jump in here, he specifically goes out of way to call Lonnie a hero, and I think he means that, which is necessary because Lonnie is a hero. Let's be very real about that. What Lonnie is doing is the action of a hero. He is the hero of another story we're barely even seeing. But what do you sacrifice? Calm. Kindness. Kinship. Love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I've made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I wake up every day to an equation I wrote 15 years ago from which there's only one conclusion. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight have set me on a path from which there is no escape. I yearned to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I looked down, there was no longer ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. And the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror or an audience or the light of gratitude. So what do I sacrifice? Everything. And he says the line, I need all the heroes I can get. And the camera transitions to Cassian, who just successfully helped organize a prison break of one of the most high-max security prisons that we've seen thus far. Yeah, I noticed Melshi was with Cassian. Which, I mean, yeah. Maybe Blue. I don't know, Huthor. We could argue this down. Maybe. We also see what I said earlier. I stand by my statement that Luthen is a Cisco. I'm sorry, for those of you who don't actually know that terminology, because it doesn't have to come up very frequently. The idea here is a distinction in mentality. I've actually heard people say that I'm stupid for making this distinction. Those people are wrong. I'm stupid for entirely other reasons. The idea here is that a Cisco and a Justice Lord will both do something wrong. They will do something morally or ethically or both wrong in a way that actually propels a greater good. They will do this in order to help others. They will accomplish wrong in order to accomplish good. But a Cisco is someone who hates every moment of it. A Cisco is someone who cannot stand what they do, who hates themselves and takes no pleasure in it and understands the cost and consequence of what they are doing. A Justice Lord does something without hesitation. I mean, of course they do. Why wouldn't they? This is what's necessary. This is what has to happen. Why would I feel bad about that? This is normal to a Justice Lord. That's the difference. That's the distinction. For those of you not familiar with it, the term Justice Lord actually comes from the DCAU, wherein there's one story arc, which is a really, really good story arc, where we find out that there are several members of the Justice League in an alternate timeline that call themselves the Justice Lords, and they have abolished crime on their planet. They have. All crime. And there's no hesitation there. There's no, I did what I have to. No, this is just normal. This is just every day. They look at this like this. It's such a completely, like, why are you questioning me about this? Yeah, there was a guy who yelled at a waiter in public, and that guy got arrested for that. They don't just kill. I mean, they do kill, but they also do worse than kill. They lobotomize. That is just, it's a really, really good story arc. But it gets across the point, because from their mind, they have no reason to feel guilty. They have no reason to feel wrong. Why would they? They're right. And they are right, but they're also extremely incorrect in their overall thing, aren't they? And that's the distinction. Because a Justice Lord, a Justice Lord looks at doing something wrong to accomplish good and thinks of it as math. But math isn't morality. I've actually said this many times over the years. Math is not morality. If I have to kill, bam, Ross is dead. I've just murdered him. But in so doing, I have saved 50 lives. Then I have done a greater good. Math. But that doesn't make it morally right. That doesn't make what I did right. That doesn't mean I get to just wash away any conscience from what I just did and that terrible action I just accomplished in order to accomplish a greater good. Doesn't matter that it led to a greater good. That's math, not morality. A Justice Lord doesn't see morality. A Cisco is drowned in it. Ah, crap, you're right. Ross hadn't finished watching Andor yet. Hang on. There you go. Okay, good. We got him. He's cool. So, I'm thinking purple. Oh, man. So, the agent in Serenity is another fascinating example, because the agent thinks of himself as a Cisco, but he's actually lying to himself. Did you catch that? No. He's actually neither, Plutonia. He's a zealot. It's why he breaks so hard when he is proven wrong, when his worldview is destroyed. Can we go above purple? I keep hearing people say that. No, there's no above purple by design. You want to have a system that has no cap on how high it can be reviewed? That's what the pluses and minuses system is. This is just colors. Still, that red section of that pie just keeps shrinking, doesn't it? This is really funny. It's just, it started off over here. It's like, StarCraft did break the golden number system. Revealed a flaw in the math, literally. We are not covering the next 2, episodes until tomorrow. As much as I would love to keep going, and I would, and this is going to be kind of hell to just kind of pause here, but we're going to do the next 2 episodes tomorrow. And I'm going to go ahead and share this now out loud. For those of you who care, I do have a small speech prepared about the sequel trilogy. And I swear it's related. So I'm going to go ahead and, for anybody who cares, I'll put that right at the end of Rick's Road. Right at the end of that. Just to make sure that nobody who gives a damn that only people who give a damn are actually seeing it. I don't want to bore anyone else. Because, for those of you who not know, I've actually been very quiet about analyzing the sequel trilogy for a long time, and the specific reason why, and I'll go ahead and share this very openly, is because the sequel trilogy was polemic for a really long time, arguably still is in some circles. Now, it's calmed down a lot, but you remember how it was, like a week, a month, a year after episode 8 came out, after episode 9 came out. You couldn't even bring up the sequel trilogy without there just becoming a thing immediately, right? So I have deliberately gone out of my way to avoid actually analyzing the sequel trilogy because I felt it was a polemic topic. And I have a no polemic rule in life, never mind in my show. By the way, trans rights are human rights. So I think we've gone a little bit far enough away to discuss that, but it also is directly related to Andor, and I do mean directly. Someone in chat, where was it? Lolamla says, tomorrow will I start The Mandalorian? Absolutely not. Tomorrow we're going to cover 2 large episodes, and then we're going to have a little bit of a speech at the end talking about the sequel trilogy. Saturday is Arcane Day, as it always is. We'll be doing Season 1, Episode 4, which is Happy Progress Day. And then Sunday, pretty much guaranteed at this point, we'll be starting The Mandalorian. In fact, I've already put it up on the website. I'm going to go do some paperwork.